Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I'm always looking for new angles on networking. Always interested in talking to different people, different takes on networking. Life didn't begin with the pandemic as far as being on Zoom and podcasting. I have been podcasting since 2018 and have met a lot of great people along the way. Some I've had on the podcast, some have introduced me to people on the podcast, and I just keep kind of going round and round. But I'm always in tune to, okay, what's out there, who's got something different to say. And somebody I met back, I don't think it was 2018, it was certainly pre-pandemic, Chad Betts, I met him. And we've kept in contact, and I was just always curious because I get his newsletter, and there's always interesting information there. He's written a book. It's called "The Second Mouse Gets the Cheese," and we'll certainly touch on that. But Chad is a dynamic executive coach, keynote speaker, and he's the author of 2 books, including "The Second Mouse Gets the Cheese," and he has a proven track record of empowering leaders, and he specializes in guiding executives and entrepreneurs, easy for me to say, to discover and achieve their unique vision of success. So again, I've gotten his newsletters and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to order his book. And son of a gun, in his book, he has a whole section here on relationships. And, I should have known he does a lot in leadership, and leadership is certainly highly aligned with relationships. Good leaders have good networks and good relationships. So I reached out to him and said, "Hey, Chad, can you come on the program?" So, Chad, welcome. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks, Frank. Happy to be here.
Well, good. The second mouse gets the cheese. What inspired that? It's a great saying. Early bird gets the worm. Second mouse gets the cheese.
That's exactly right. It was based off of that old joke. And I found that people fall into certain traps, especially as they start getting a little bit older. They fall into the mediocrity trap where, they're doing okay. So if you're doing okay, you don't really need to go and do better because you're not really failing. So you get stuck in mediocrity. Or they fall into the isolation trap, which is kind of what you were alluding to, where especially during the pandemic, we kind of pulled back and, it's just me. And we have to remember that life's a team sport. And that we really, if we work together, we all grow together. And then the last is the artificial life trap, where we can kind of get stuck doing things that appear to be bringing us towards our goals, but are not. I mean, the example I like to use are like online games, where you get that instant gratification of achieving the next level. But really, what have you done? And you really, it sucks you in and kind of pulls you to do something that's not with your goals. So those are the premises that we go over in The Second Mouse.
Okay. What was the first book?
The Late Bloomer, It's Not Too Late to Succeed. So
okay.
Similar topic. You don't need to read both. I mean, they're separate projects, but the Late Bloomer is kind of the what, and the Second Mouse is more of the how and the why.
Gotcha. You heard my intro. Relationships are everywhere. We don't think about that. That's the funny thing about networking. It's like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur now, I need to get out and network, or I got that promotion now, I need to get out and network. And in reality, we've been doing it all along. Anyhow.
Yeah, and I've been working with a lot of people who are in transition, and so this is kind of the first time they've gotten to networking, and they think it's this big nebulous thing. And I was teaching a class, and one of the people in there said, "Well, I don't have a network." So I asked, "Well, do you have any friends?" And well, yeah. And well, do you have any coworkers?
Yeah.
How about the people here? And just going in, you find that you have all these relationships that you really don't think of as networking. You're actually networking, but you're just building relationships. And that's really the key. It's not going for that sale or finding the
Yeah.
job. It's, those things come, but networking is about building relationships.
Yeah. No, I think that's um, a big misunderstanding with the word networking. That just this event didn't work. I went there and got nothing out of it.
Right.
Don't introduce me to people. Why would I want to meet that person? I don't see the clear path to where I'm going. Well,
Right.
you're not supposed to.
That's because there is no clear path. You have to
Right.
follow the path. It's a path in the woods. You can't see the end from where you're starting. You have
Yeah.
to
You
you have
just
to
have to
go on
go.
the faith, and you have to go and build those relationships along the way.
Yeah. Let's just quickly dive into your background, how you got to this point.
Sure. It's funny when you think of networking, you think of like salespeople and things, but I've never really been in sales. I've always been in operations and analysis and things like that. But really, I got to start like many people did when looking for a job. Going out and meeting people. I found that I enjoyed it. And going out and meeting new people and building relationships and helping other people. And that's one thing too I find about networking. It's more service. The more you're out and help people, the more you're likely to get help when you need it. So I've been going out with being in volunteer organizations, in traditional networking groups, in job hunting networking groups, just to meet people, to help people, and to make introductions for others. And I find great satisfaction in that. And I found that when I do need help, it comes back to me.
Yeah, no, that's the not so secret formula, right?
Mhm.
With respect to what networking is. You talk about networking in 3 levels. Can we dive into those 3 levels and I guess really sort of pick them
Sure,
apart?
sure. So when I've been like I just mentioned, I've been helping a lot of people in transition, and I find that people in transition get stuck in their let's just call it the local network, their inner circle, and if you were to equate networking to fishing, it's like fishing in the same fishing hole over and over and over again. So I don't know when you were a kid in my local town, the town would come in and they would stock the local pond with trout. And on the first day, everybody shoulder to shoulder and they're all fishing. And then they fish it all out. And there's nothing left. So you go a week later and you're lucky to catch a bluegill. There's just nothing left in there.
Right.
And many times we do that to our network, and our network gets fatigued. We keep going back and asking for a job or asking for a sale, or asking. And the network gets tired. So again, it's not being nurtured. If you do have a specific goal that you need to accomplish right now, like let's just use the example of finding a job, you can't just go back to that old fishing hole. You have to start going and doing some more deeper networking. So let's go to the second layer. So those are kind of acquaintances or people are on your periphery who you may have met or someone who knows them. And that's where you can get more leads and you can grow that network. How do you do it? Well, one, when you have a networking meeting with someone in your inner circle, asking for introductions. And there's 2 types of introductions. There's the one, do you know somebody who has whatever? Or you could do the research beforehand through LinkedIn or somewhere else. Hey, I see you're connected with so and so. Is it possible for you to make an introduction for me? And then go and out and start building relationships with those people. And again, it's not like you rush in. Hey, do you have a job for me? That's not the point of networking. You have to build that relationship. And
So
then
I
once
guess
you
to
get that,
clarify,
I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. The first level is what you term the local level, correct?
Right. So you kind of your inner circle.
Okay, we'll call it inner circle. Okay, and then the the uh, the second level is the connections of the inner circle. Fair
Yes.
statement. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And
No,
then the third is
yep.
kind of like outside, where it's not even, we're on a podcast. So I'm using my hands, so that's not helpful.
That's okay.
But the outside is, people who you need multiple contacts to get to. And I kind of call that pulling the thread. And I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, I lost my job. And it was very difficult because there was a reason I lost my job. There was just not a demand for what I was doing. So I really had to go out and stretch myself to find something. So I was networking, and I was networking with a former coworker. He didn't have anything, but he said, "You know what? You should talk to this other former coworker." So I went and I talked to him, and he didn't have anything. He said, "But you know what? Let me introduce you to my vendor." So I went and I talked to that vendor. And then the vendor didn't have anything, but he said, "No, I heard about this bank who might be hiring." So the vendor connected me with a chief credit officer. So we built a relationship there. He talked to his boss, who he happened to be a client of mine years ago. So the boss then called a former boss of mine asking if it was the same person. And, my former boss said yes. My former boss called me and said, "You got to call this guy." So that is a very convoluted thread. But if I gave up on any of those points, I would have
Mm-hmm.
not have gotten the position. So it's always pulling that thread. Is there someone else you could introduce me to? No matter what, if they could help you or not, is there anyone else you can think of that I could talk to? Because again, like we were talking about before, you may not get that result now, but you're building that relationship, and that seed might bloom later. But you also get your results now. So it's a mixture. You really have to balance it, where you're going for your goal, but also looking to build those relationships.
Yeah, that's an interesting analogy for networking, metaphor, whatever. I I get emails almost daily with people saying, "Hey, Frank, I need this.
Mm-hmm.
So and so said, here's my CV. So and so said, people. I need this." Got one yesterday. Hey, we've known each other for 8 years. You know anybody who's looking to be coached? I've got 8 years. I've got the certification now, and I routinely tell people, I'm like, I wouldn't be doing my job if I had somebody who was unserved. Right. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody came to me and they needed something, I'm going to be making introductions right away. I might not know who that person should be coached by or who that person could be hired by, but here, I want to take you to the next step. I'll joke with people. I'll say, I don't have a Greyhound bus traveling the city with people and opportunities. Just, hey, Gus, take the bus over to here and drop off this person. There's a job. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
It,
And
it's
it's also, that's why it's important for the networker to be on top of their game if they do have a specific goal. You want someone to say, "Hey, I know this person. This person is great. You should talk to them." So if you're stuck in kind of that mediocrity trap that we're talking about with the second mouse, you may not get to that next thread because the person you're talking to is like, "Well, I don't know if I want to introduce them. They're okay, but I don't know." You have to remember that the other person has a reputation too. And if they're recommending you, you are representing them. So
yeah,
you really need to be on top of your game, to be professional, not to be a pain in the neck. And once you get to a result, whether it's positive or negative for you, that you're not harassing the person. Networking is not harassment. Again, it's building relationships.
yeah, no. So they go from that inner circle to the indirect connections.
Mhm.
Do you get pushback from people on those? Do you pushback between any of those levels? If so, how do you deal with it?
Yes, you're going to get pushback. Sometimes people just won't know somebody, or they can't think of it, or they may not, have the trust in you to refer you to one of their contacts. So there's a few things you can do. One is to make yourself a kind of a trusted advisor, someone who is a good networker, meaning that you serve others, that you've helped people, and you show yourself as a professional. So building yourself up as that professional with an image of service, and sincere service, because people could figure it out if you're faking it, and be that beacon that people want to be around. If the person is hesitant, try to uncover the objections they have. It might be that they don't think you're qualified, and you can kind of convince them that you are. But again, it's convincing and harassment. There is a fine line, so you got to kind of sniff it out. If the person is bothered, then you go on to the next person. Part of it is a numbers game. Not everyone is going to be able to help you. Not everyone's going to be willing to help you. So you go and you find the people who have that confidence in you to push you forward, and then keep doing it. Not every call is going to end up like the one I had with the 8 connections. Most of them are going to poop out after 2 or 3, and that's okay. Go on to the next. And you might find that third connection that pooped out now, 2 years from now, if you're building that relationship, might be a productive networking partner.
Yeah, I find that you can kind of keep people in play by being someone of value. And I've had friends from college, friends from law school who will reach out, and it's usually, yeah, I feel bad, I haven't talked to you in years, but hey, I need whatever.
Right.
Can you help me? And you don't want to be the person to say no, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's just annoying, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it's been 10 years, don't open with, I need this.
Yeah.
Hey, it's been a while. Sorry, it's been so long. Just catching up. What's happening with you? And then build a relationship back. And if you can get it to a point where you're working it, then you could ask your question. But yeah, you have to be definitely cautious in that. I mean, let's look at our relationship. I mean, we don't talk every day.
No.
Maybe we talk 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
But we just keep in touch. And then when we get something that's, hey, I think Frank might find this interesting. I'll shoot you a note and make an introduction, and you do the same for me. It's just building that relationship back and forth, keeping people in mind, and helping them out, even if they don't they need help. Or if you find someone that you're talking to that has something or needs something, and making an introduction for both, because people who are hiring need help, and people who need a job obviously need a job. So making those connections, you're helping both.
Yeah. I think that's something to keep in mind, that when you're helping people, there's really two aspects to it. So the 3 levels of connecting: you have your local, your inner circle, you have your indirect contacts, the people that the inner circle knows, and then the people who are outside of that.
Right. That's the deep networking, going out there,
Yeah.
and it's hard. I mean, I understand that not everyone's used to it, talking to strangers like that, especially if it's a loose introduction. But it's helpful. It helps build confidence. It helps person build confidence in themselves. Helps them be able to talk about themselves in an uncomfortable situation, which you can help them with sales or with interviewing or with just any kind of negotiations. And you might find that you build a great networking contact over time. And if you can start before you need it, that's the thing. And you kind of alluded to that earlier. It's this is not something, if you need something, then start now. If you haven't done it, start. It's always better to start. But it's better to start first and then need later.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of truth to that. Talking to Chad Betts, the author of The Second Mouse Gets the Cheese. Let's shift gears here a second. I want to open the door for you to talk about your executive coaching business, types of people you work with, types of things you do. You kind of alluded to the job transition sorts, how people can help you, how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. My website is ccbadvisoryllc.com. You can contact me through there. There's links to my LinkedIn and my author page on Facebook. Chad at ccbadvisoryllc.com is the email. And for any of your audience who is interested in understanding what a coaching session is, I'll offer a complimentary half-hour session to your listeners. So that's something I like to offer your listeners. What coaching is, there's a difference between coaching and consulting. A consultant will tell you what needs to be done. A coach will help bring out of you what needs to be done. So none of us really like to be told what to do. And you have your own experience where you're on your own career path that someone else isn't going to have that same experience. So by talking it through, setting specific goals on what the outcome of each coaching session is, and then bringing it to a goal that you establish that you want to achieve, so that each meeting you can see yourself getting closer and closer to your goal. That is the benefit of coaching. And when you are getting a coach, you really should see the value. Coaching is not touchy-feely. It is, you should put something in and get something out. So if you're not getting extra time in your day, if you're not getting your needs satisfied, then it's not worth the money. So you have to make sure that you have a coach who understands the value of coaching and that you need to receive that value, not just have nice chat sessions for a fee.
Right. Okay. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on, sharing about those 3 levels.
And thank you. You've done a lot with networking, and I've always followed you, and I appreciate it. I've learned a lot from you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with your audience.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today, and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.